Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Dr. S.K. Singh, PhD, and I'm delighted to have you here today. Today, we'll be exploring the important topic of quality risk management, or QRM. This presentation will cover the fundamentals of QRM, its significance, and how it can be effectively applied in our processes. So, let's get started and delve into this vital subject together. Today, I want to highlight the importance of a life cycle, science, and risk-based approach to pharmaceutical quality. This approach is increasingly emphasized by current regulatory expectations. For example, the ICH Q9 R1 guideline, which became effective on July 26, 2023, underscores the need for a comprehensive risk management strategy throughout the product lifecycle. This is part of a broader shift towards integrating quality risk management into all aspects of pharmaceutical development and manufacturing. Additionally, we see the alignment with other key guidelines like ICH Q10, ICH Q8, and ICH Q11, which are considered default references in our quality systems. These guidelines collectively promote a science-driven, risk-based mindset that supports continuous improvement and robust control strategies. On top of that, the European Union's GMP guidelines, specifically Part I, Chapter 1, and the 2022 revised Annex 1, also reinforce the importance of particle measuring systems and contamination control, highlighting how critical it is to assess and mitigate risks related to particulates and other contaminants. All these principles tie back to the core concept of quality risk management, QRM, which is fundamental for proactively identifying, evaluating, and controlling potential risks to quality. Taken together, these regulations and guidelines shape a modern, science and risk-based framework that is essential for ensuring consistent, high-quality pharmaceutical products. This approach not only meets regulatory expectations, but also supports the overall goal of safeguarding patient health. Let's delve into the regulatory framework for QRM. First, we have ICH Q9 R1, which serves as a global core guideline outlining principles, definitions, and tools for quality risk management across the entire product lifecycle. This includes development, technology transfer, commercial production, and even discontinuation. Think of ICH Q9 as our foundational reference, and it's supported by the ICH Database +1, which provides extensive data to inform our decisions. Next, there's ICH Q10, which details the Pharmaceutical Quality System, or PQS. This framework emphasizes that QRM and knowledge management are key enablers, critical components that support science and risk-based decision-making throughout the product lifecycle. Moving to regional guidance, the EU GMP Part I, Chapter 1, explicitly requires the application of risk management principles for all GMP activities. And with the recent Annex 1 updates, implemented in 2022 and 2023, QRM and the Contamination Control Strategy, or CCS, are embedded into aseptic manufacturing processes. This highlights how risk management is integral to ensuring sterility and product quality. Furthermore, global authorities like WHO, FDA, and PICS all agree on the importance of systematic, well-documented, science-based QRM. They recognize that a structured approach to risk management is essential for maintaining high-quality pharmaceutical products. Overall, these frameworks and regulations illustrate that QRM doesn't operate in isolation. It is rooted in regulatory expectations and is vital for fostering a robust quality culture across the industry. Let's start by understanding what risk really means in this context. According to ICH Q9, risk is a combination of two key factors: the probability that harm could occur and the severity of that harm if it does happen. So, risk isn't just about how likely something is, but also how serious the consequences could be. Now, moving on to quality risk management, or QRM. This is a structured, systematic process. It involves assessing potential risks, controlling them, communicating about them, and reviewing the risks regularly. The main goal here is to ensure product quality and, most importantly, patient safety. The objectives of QRM are really central. First, protecting patient safety and maintaining product quality are top priorities. Second, QRM supports making decisions that are consistent and transparent, which helps build trust and clarity. Third, it allows us to allocate resources based on risk, prioritizing efforts where the risk is highest. And finally, when the risk management process is robust, it can even enable regulatory flexibility, giving us room to innovate and adapt when justified. In essence, QRM isn't just about managing risks. It's about creating a safer, more reliable process that benefits patients, supports regulatory compliance, and improves overall product quality. Now, let's look at the two primary principles that guide our approach to risk management. First, risk evaluation should always be grounded in scientific knowledge and should be directly linked to protecting the patient. This means that our assessments are not just based on assumptions, but on solid evidence, ensuring patient safety remains at the forefront. Second, the level of effort, the formality of our processes, and the documentation we produce should be proportional to the level of risk involved. In other words, higher risks require more thorough analysis and documentation, while lower risks can be managed with a lighter touch. This concept is often called proportionate QRM or quality risk management. Now, how does QRM support our overall quality framework? It underpins a life cycle approach, meaning from development all the way through to commercialization, risk management is integrated at every stage. It also promotes continuous improvement and effective knowledge management, so we're always learning and refining our processes. Additionally, QRM informs risk-based GMP and regulatory decisions, helping us prioritize actions based on actual risk levels. These principles, as outlined in ICH Q9, are essential to maintaining a balanced, scientifically sound, and patient-focused approach to quality management. The effective date for these updates is July 26, 2023, and they focus on 4 key areas. First, there's an emphasis on addressing subjectivity in risk assessments and the outputs we produce. This means we're aiming for more consistency and objectivity in how risks are evaluated and communicated. Next, product availability is a point of focus, finding the right balance between managing quality risks and ensuring supply continuity. We want to make sure that while maintaining high standards, we're also not causing unnecessary supply disruptions. The third area involves risk-based decision-making. Here, the key is establishing clear criteria, enhancing transparency, and ensuring accountability in how decisions are made based on risk assessments. This helps build trust and clarity across the board. Finally, we've looked at the formality of the quality risk management process itself. The goal is to find the right level of detail and documentation, enough to be thorough without being overly burdensome. There's also clarified guidance around risk review and keeping risk assessments current throughout the life cycle of the product. This ensures that our risk management remains dynamic and responsive to any new information or changing circumstances. So what's new in ICH Q9? R1. The key enhancements are designed to streamline and strengthen the overall risk management approach, making it more consistent, transparent, and aligned with current best practices. These changes are all about ensuring our risk management processes support both quality and supply chain resilience more effectively. Let's take a closer look at how QRM is integrated into the pharmaceutical quality system, or PQS, as outlined in ICH Q10. First, you'll notice that QRM is embedded into key areas like deviations and CAPA. This means we now classify deviations and investigate them based on their risk levels, ensuring that higher-risk issues get the appropriate attention and thorough investigation. Similarly, in change management, we conduct risk-based impact assessments and develop control strategies accordingly. This approach helps us focus resources where they are most needed, minimizing potential negative impacts. Management review also benefits from QRM by highlighting risk signals and trends. This enables us to evaluate the effectiveness of our controls and make data-driven decisions. And of course, Continuous improvement is driven by risk prioritization, allowing us to identify and implement projects that will have the greatest impact on quality. When we combine QRM with knowledge management, these tools become powerful enablers for a modern, ICH-based PQS. They help us create a proactive, risk-informed environment that supports consistent product quality and continuous enhancement of our systems. Let's take a closer look at the risk assessment part of the QRM process. First, we have risk identification, which is all about spotting potential risks early on, things that could go wrong in our project or product. Once we've identified these risks, we move to risk analysis, where we evaluate how likely these risks are to happen and what their possible impact could be. This helps us understand the severity and prioritize our actions. Next is risk evaluation, where we decide which risks need immediate attention and which ones can be accepted or monitored over time. This step is crucial because it guides us in focusing our resources effectively. Then we arrive at risk control. Here, we develop strategies to manage or mitigate the risks we've identified and analyzed. Risk reduction involves implementing measures to lower the probability or impact of risks. Sometimes, we might choose risk acceptance, which means acknowledging certain risks but deciding not to take further action, especially if the cost of mitigation outweighs the benefits. Risk communication is another key element. It's about ensuring everyone involved understands the risks and the measures in place. Clear communication is vital for effective risk management. Finally, we have risk review, which is an ongoing process throughout the life cycle of the project or product. This ensures that our risk management stays current and adapts to new challenges as they arise. Overall, this structured approach forms the backbone of the QRM process, helping us proactively manage uncertainties and keep our projects on track. Let's take a closer look at how we define the problem statement. What can go wrong? This step is crucial because it sets the foundation for our risk assessment. We need to identify potential hazards, failure modes, and error types that could impact our process. These include various aspects such as process steps, equipment, materials, the environment, human factors, and data flows. To do this effectively, we rely on multiple sources of information. Process maps help us visualize the entire workflow, while batch records can reveal where issues may have occurred historically. Deviations and complaints provide insights into specific problems, and inspection findings offer evidence of potential risks. Additionally, scientific literature can guide us on known failure modes and hazards. By thoroughly understanding these elements, we can identify what might go wrong at each stage, which is essential for creating a robust risk management plan. Remember, this step is about being proactive, anticipating issues before they occur, rather than just reacting to them. This comprehensive approach helps us safeguard quality, safety, and efficiency throughout our process. Let's talk about risk analysis. When assessing risk, we can use different approaches: qualitative, semi-quantitative, or quantitative, depending on how critical the issue is and the data available. The key is to consider factors like severity, probability, and detectability. We also need to be aware of detectability limitations, especially when it comes to microbiological risks, which can be tricky to identify precisely. Moving on to risk evaluation, this is where we compare our estimated risk levels against predefined risk acceptance criteria. It's crucial to define what we consider acceptable, tolerable with controls, or unacceptable. These definitions shouldn't be arbitrary. They must be linked to patient impact and legal requirements. For example, we can't accept a risk that breaches mandatory GMP standards or registration specifications. Finally, this entire process, risk analysis and evaluation, is part of a comprehensive risk assessment. By thoroughly analyzing and evaluating risks, we ensure that we're making informed decisions that prioritize patient safety and comply with regulatory standards. That's the core of effective risk management in our industry. Now, let's talk about risk acceptance. When we accept residual risk, it's essential to document the rationale behind that decision. We need to be clear about who is responsible for approving it and that approval should be based on solid data and specific criteria. For critical decisions, it's best to involve multiple functions, like QA, manufacturing, QC, and regulatory teams, to ensure all perspectives are considered and the decision is well-founded. Moving on to risk reduction, this involves identifying and implementing controls. These controls can include process changes, design improvements, automation, training, and ongoing monitoring with alarms and limits. The key here is to make sure that the controls we put in place don't introduce new risks that could be even more problematic. Finally, combining risk control through reduction and acceptance is about balancing these approaches to manage risk effectively. It's a continuous process, making sure that our controls are appropriate, effective, and don't inadvertently create new issues. This integrated approach helps us maintain safety and quality throughout the process. Let's talk about bidirectional communication. This means maintaining open and continuous dialogue within our organization, involving teams like QA, manufacturing, QC, engineering, and supply chain. It's essential that everyone stays connected and shares information effectively. But it's not just internal communication that matters. We also need to have clear channels with regulators, whether that's through dossiers, responding to their questions, or during inspections. Building this trust is crucial for smooth regulatory interactions. A key part of this process is transparent documentation. We should record problem statements, assumptions we make, data sources we rely on, tools used for analysis, decision criteria, and our final conclusions. This transparency shows our commitment to accuracy and accountability. All of this supports regulatory trust and helps us stay prepared for inspections. Now, let's also touch on risk communication. Clearly conveying risks and how we're managing them is vital. It ensures everyone is on the same page and helps foster confidence with regulators and stakeholders alike. Overall, these communication practices are fundamental to our compliance, trustworthiness, and the integrity of our work. QRM, or risk quality management, isn't something you do just once and forget about. It's an ongoing process that requires regular updates and reviews. Risk assessments must be kept current to ensure they accurately reflect the latest conditions and potential hazards. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration emphasizes the importance of periodic review, which should be scheduled based on the level of risk involved. But it's not just about routine checks. There are specific triggers that should prompt a reassessment, such as when new deviations occur, complaints are received, or product recalls happen. Process changes, the introduction of new technology, or inspection observations are also critical triggers. These events can all impact the risk profile and should be integrated into the review process. Additionally, risk management should be linked with other critical activities like ongoing process verification, annual product quality review, or PQR, trend analysis, and CCS review in sterile manufacturing. These connections help create a comprehensive lifecycle approach, ensuring risks are managed proactively rather than reactively. Ultimately, this risk review and lifecycle management approach helps us maintain product quality and compliance, adapting to changes and new information as they arise. It's a continuous cycle that supports ongoing improvement and patient safety. Not all risks require a full FMEA with a lengthy 25-page report. According to ICH Q9, R1, the formality of quality risk management, or QRM, depends on the level of criticality. When a risk is highly critical, we tend to use more structured tools and produce more detailed documentation. Conversely, for lower criticality risks, simpler tools and streamlined documentation are sufficient. Deciding on the appropriate level of formality involves considering several factors. These include the potential impact on patients, the complexity of the process, the level of uncertainty involved, regulatory implications, and whether the technology is novel. The main benefit of this approach is that it helps us avoid unnecessary bureaucracy, what some might call QRM bureaucracy, while still ensuring we focus our resources on managing the real risks that matter most. This right-sized approach as emphasized in Q9, R1, encourages us to tailor our risk management efforts to the specific circumstances. It's about being proportional and practical, making sure we're thorough enough without overcomplicating the process. Let's take a closer look at ICH-Q9, R1, and its focus on subjectivity in risk management. One of the main weaknesses highlighted is how subjective assessments can influence our risk evaluations. To address this, we need effective mitigation strategies. First, involving cross-functional teams is crucial. Bringing together QA, production, QC, engineering, and MS&T helps ensure diverse perspectives and reduces individual biases. Second, it's important to define clear scoring criteria for aspects like severity, probability, and detectability, and then train everyone on these standards. This consistency helps make our assessments more objective. Third, anchoring our ratings to data is key. This means using actual deviations, trends from OOS or OOT results, CAPA effectiveness, and statistical analyses to support our judgments. Additionally, holding challenge meetings or peer reviews of critical risk assessments can help catch biases and ensure thorough evaluation. Lastly, we should always document our assumptions, uncertainties, and any data gaps explicitly. This transparency helps clarify where subjectivity might influence decisions and allows for ongoing review and improvement. Overall, minimizing subjectivity in QRM is about combining structured approaches, data-driven insights, and collaborative review processes, especially in line with what Q9, R1 emphasizes. Let's delve into the importance of balancing quality risk against product availability in our QRM processes. It's essential to recognize that while implementing controls can reduce risks, they can also impact supply, potentially leading to drug shortages. So, we need to carefully consider whether an alternative control exists that maintains an acceptable risk level without compromising supply. Another key point is managing temporary risk acceptance. Sometimes, we might need to accept a certain level of risk temporarily, but this should be coupled with enhanced monitoring to ensure that any issues are quickly identified and addressed, helping us avoid shortages. Documentation plays a crucial role here. We must clearly justify our chosen options from a patient-centric perspective, explaining why a particular control or risk acceptance is appropriate. Additionally, we should outline interim risk controls and have a plan for long-term remediation to ensure continuous improvement. Finally, with the new emphasis introduced in Q9R1, product availability is now a central focus in our QRM discussions. It's about balancing the quality risks with the need to ensure our products remain accessible to patients, reinforcing that this balance is at the heart of effective quality risk management. When making decisions, it's crucial that they are traceable, transparent, and grounded in science. This means we need to clearly identify who owns each decision and who the key stakeholders are. By linking our decision criteria directly to risk acceptance levels, we ensure that our choices align with our safety and quality standards. Using relevant data is essential. Things like process capability, stability trends, complaint rates, and other indicators help us make informed, objective decisions. It's also important to document all the alternatives we considered and explain why we rejected certain options. This transparency supports consistency across different products and sites, helping us maintain a unified approach. Ultimately, this risk-based decision-making process is about making reliable, science-based choices that support our overall goal of quality and safety. It's about embedding these principles into our everyday decisions to ensure we're always making the best possible choices. Now, let's take a look at some of the basic or broad tools we use in risk management. These include techniques like brainstorming, flowcharts, and checklists. These are straightforward, flexible methods that help us gather ideas, visualize processes, and ensure we don't overlook any critical steps. We also have hazard analysis tools, such as hazard analysis, or HA, and preliminary hazard analysis, PHA. These are essential for identifying potential hazards early in the process, allowing us to prioritize areas that need attention. Moving on to the structured tools, these are more formalized and systematic. For example, Failure Mode and Effects Analysis, or FMEA, and its more comprehensive version, FMECA, help us analyze how failures can occur and assess their effects, including criticality. Fault Tree Analysis, or FTA, is another powerful method that visualizes the pathways leading to a failure, making it easier to trace root causes. Then there's HACCP, which is widely used in food safety, but also applicable in other industries to identify critical control points where hazards can be managed effectively. HAZOP, or Hazard Operability Study, systematically examines processes to identify deviations from normal operation that could lead to hazards. In addition, risk ranking and filtering, along with risk matrices, allow us to prioritize risks based on their severity and likelihood, helping us focus our efforts where they matter most. Choosing the right tool depends on several factors: the scope of the project, its complexity, the available data, and the level of formality required. Finally, all these methods can be integrated into a broader framework called QRM, or Quantitative Risk Management, which provides an overview of how we systematically approach and evaluate risks throughout a project or process. Let's take a closer look at some common issues with RPN in FMEA. Specifically, when we multiply S, P, and D, one key challenge is that different combinations of severity, probability, and detection can lead to the same RPN, but actually represent very different risk profiles. This means we might overlook critical high-severity failures if their probability is low, simply because the RPN doesn't reflect the true risk. Another point is that these assessments are often static snapshots. They're done at one moment in time and not regularly updated. This can conflict with the ongoing need for risk reviews, which should reflect current conditions. Additionally, there's sometimes an over-reliance on expert opinion without sufficient data to back it up. While expert judgment is valuable, it can introduce bias or inaccuracies if not supported by data. On the positive side, there's a growing trend towards integrating more advanced statistical methods and data analytics into QRM. Techniques like control charts, capability indices, and multivariate analysis are helping us move beyond simple checklist approaches and make our risk assessments more dynamic and data-driven. Overall, understanding these limitations helps us improve our risk management strategies and ensure we're capturing the true picture of potential failures. Now, when we talk about using QRM already integrated into pharmaceutical development, we focus on a few key areas. First, defining critical quality attributes, or CQAs, is essential because these are the properties that must be maintained within specific limits to ensure product quality. Next, we identify critical process parameters, or CPPs, which are the key variables in our processes that can impact those CQAs. Supporting our development efforts, we also utilize design of experiments, or DOE, and define our design space. This helps us understand the relationships between process variables and product quality, allowing for more robust process design and control. During tech transfer, the focus shifts slightly. We assess the risk involved in scale-up, considering factors like new equipment, new suppliers, and local utility systems that might introduce variability or challenges. It's also important to identify any gaps in knowledge transfer and plan bridging studies to ensure smooth and successful technology transfer. Overall, applying QRM throughout development and tech transfer helps us proactively manage risks, ensure quality, and facilitate efficient scale-up and technology transfer processes. This aligns with our broader goal of robust, reliable manufacturing and consistent product quality. Let's take a closer look at some practical examples of QRM applications in real-world scenarios. First, we have process risk assessments, which are essential during stages like blending, granulation, compression, coating, and packaging. These assessments help us identify potential risks at each step and implement controls to ensure product quality. Next, cross-contamination risk management is critical when sharing facilities. This includes validation of cleaning processes and developing campaign strategies to minimize contamination between different products or batches. We also need to evaluate supplier risk assessments and account for material variability, which can significantly impact process consistency and product quality. Additionally, designing risk-based environmental monitoring and sampling plans by determining appropriate frequency, locations, and alert or action limits helps us proactively identify and mitigate environmental risks. Finally, all these applications are integral to our overall approach in commercial manufacturing, especially in non-sterile processes, where maintaining control and understanding risks is vital to ensure safety and compliance. Now, let's look at the updated EU GMP Annex 1 demands regarding QRM, or Quality Risk Management. One of the key points is that QRM must be integrated into both the design and operation of aseptic facilities. This means that risk management isn't just an afterthought. It's embedded throughout the entire life cycle of the facility. A crucial aspect is developing a documented contamination control strategy, or CCS, which is based on systematic risk assessments. This strategy acts as a roadmap, guiding how we control contamination risks effectively. The CCS covers several critical areas. First, it includes the facility and HVAC design, ensuring that cleanroom classifications and pressure cascades are appropriate to minimize contamination. It also encompasses utilities like WFI, clean steam, and gases, which must be managed carefully to prevent contamination. Equipment design, sterilization procedures, and maintenance schedules are also part of the CCS. These elements help maintain the integrity of the aseptic process. Personnel practices, gowning procedures, and the transfer of materials and components are addressed as well, along with disinfection strategies to reduce contamination risks. Environmental monitoring and trending are key for ongoing assessment, and media fills or aseptic process simulations are essential for validating the aseptic process. Most importantly, QRM is used to justify each element of the CCS, determining the appropriate frequencies, establishing alert and action limits, and defining responses when issues arise. In summary, integrating QRM into sterile manufacturing, as emphasized in Annex 1 and the CCS, ensures a systematic, risk-based approach that enhances the safety and quality of sterile products throughout the facility's life cycle. Let's delve into how we apply QRM, or Quality Risk Management, to CSV and data integrity. First, we need to classify our systems based on their GXP impact and criticality. This helps us understand which systems require more rigorous validation and controls. Next, we define the depth of validation and the scope of testing according to the level of risk involved. The higher the risk, the more thorough our validation efforts should be. We also adopt a risk-based approach to backup, security, access control, and audit trail reviews. This means tailoring our strategies to focus more on areas with higher risk, ensuring data integrity and compliance. Speaking of data integrity, it's essential that our approach aligns with the principles of ALCOA+, which emphasize attributes like attributable, legible, contemporaneous, original, accurate, and adding the plus, completeness, consistency, enduring, and availability. Finally, our strategies should be in line with current guidance from regulatory authorities such as MHRA, FDA, WHO, and PIC-S. By doing so, we ensure our systems are robust, compliant, and capable of maintaining the highest standards of data integrity throughout the life cycle. This integrated approach helps us systematically manage risks and uphold data integrity across all our computerized systems. Now, let's look at some key risk assessments that are essential in our quality control processes. First, we need to consider risks related to sample handling and mix-ups, which can directly impact the accuracy of our results. Ensuring proper handling and identification is critical to prevent errors. Next, analytical methods themselves pose risks, especially around critical steps and method robustness. It's important to assess these areas to make sure our methods are reliable and consistent across different conditions. Reference standards management is another vital aspect. We must monitor expiry dates and requalification schedules to maintain the integrity of our standards over time. Using outdated standards can compromise our analysis. Data integrity is also a major concern. Risks like manual transcription errors, spreadsheet controls, and maintaining audit trails need to be evaluated carefully. Protecting data accuracy and traceability is fundamental to compliance and reliable decision-making. Moving on to risk-based considerations, we prioritize analytical instrument qualification, especially for systems critical to quality control. Regular calibration intervals and maintenance frequency are vital to keep instruments performing optimally. Finally, the scope and depth of out-of-specification or out-of-trend investigations should be assessed, ensuring we investigate thoroughly but efficiently. All these risk assessments tie into our broader quality risk management approach within the quality control laboratories. By identifying and addressing these risks, we help ensure our processes are robust, compliant, and capable of delivering high-quality products consistently. Let's talk about change control. Every time we make a change, it's important to perform a thorough risk assessment. This helps us understand how the change might impact critical quality attributes, process parameters, their ranges, and other regulatory aspects like filings. Now, when deviations or nonconformances occur, we classify them based on risk, whether they're minor, major, or critical. This classification guides us on how deep our investigation should go, ensuring we focus resources appropriately. For CAPA, we prioritize actions based on the level of risk involved. Higher-risk issues get more immediate and extensive attention. To make sure our CAPA is effective, we use quality risk management tools to verify whether the actions taken truly reduce the risk. These are our effectiveness checks. And of course, we apply QRM not just in change control, but also in managing deviations and CAPA processes. This integrated approach helps us ensure that every step we take effectively minimizes risk and maintains product quality. Now let's look at how the Annual Product Quality Review, or APQR, utilizes quality risk management, or QRM. QRM helps us identify emerging risks by analyzing trends such as complaints, deviations, yield data, rejection rates, and stability issues. By doing this, we're able to spot potential problems early and prioritize actions to improve process capability, upgrade equipment, or make changes to suppliers. The outcomes from QRM are not isolated. They actually feed directly into our site master plans, investment strategies, and training priorities. This integration ensures that our continuous improvement efforts are data-driven and aligned with our overall quality goals. So, by combining QRM with APQR and ongoing improvement initiatives, we create a more proactive and effective approach to maintaining product quality and operational excellence. When inspectors come in, they expect to see well-structured, traceable QRM files. This means having clear documentation that covers all the key elements: the problem at hand, the scope of the assessment, the tools used, the team involved, the data analyzed, and the conclusions drawn. It's important that everything is linked logically so that they can follow the decision process easily. They also look for a clear connection between risk assessments and the actual controls, procedures, and monitoring plans that are in place. Essentially, your risk evaluations should directly inform your operational controls, and inspectors want to see that this linkage is transparent and well documented. Another critical aspect is evidence of ongoing review and updates, especially for areas considered high risk, like aseptic operations, data integrity, and cross-contamination controls. Regular reviews show that your risk management practices are living documents that adapt to new information and changing conditions. It's also worth noting that poorly documented or purely theoretical QRM files often raise questions during inspections. Inspectors want to see practical evidence, real data, actual reviews, and concrete actions, not just theoretical assumptions. So, when it comes to documentation and evidence, be prepared to demonstrate thorough, organized records. These should clearly show your risk management process in action, providing inspectors with confidence that your quality systems are robust and actively managed. Let's talk about some common pitfalls and signals of noncompliance that we often see. First, there's the risk assessment process itself. Sometimes, teams copy and paste risk assessments from one product or process to another without customizing or tailoring them to the specific situation. This can lead to gaps because each product or process has unique risks that need proper evaluation. Another issue is using QRM, quality risk management, to justify not meeting explicit regulatory requirements. This is problematic because, as outlined in ICH Q9, QRM should support decision-making, not serve as an excuse to bypass specific regulations. We also see cases where reviews and updates of risk assessments are neglected, especially after major changes or recurring deviations. Yet, these assessments should be living documents, continuously revisited to reflect current realities. Additionally, there's often a mismatch in tool complexity. Highly complex tools are sometimes applied when a simple approach would suffice, and vice versa. We need to match our tools to the actual complexity of the situation. Finally, there's frequently no clear link between risk ranking and how we prioritize CAPA activities, investments, or ongoing monitoring. Without this connection, resources may not be allocated effectively, which can undermine overall quality and compliance. All these points highlight the importance of a tailored, well-maintained, and logically connected risk management approach, key to maintaining compliance and ensuring product quality. As we look to the future of QRM, we're seeing a clear trend towards increasing use of digital platforms. These are now being integrated with deviation management systems, CAPA workflows, CMMS, and LIMS, creating a more seamless flow of information. This integration enhances our ability to identify and address risks more efficiently. Additionally, advanced analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning are becoming key tools for trend detection. They help us spot early risk signals through techniques like multivariate process monitoring, allowing for proactive decision-making before issues escalate. Regulatory expectations are also evolving, especially in newer areas like continuous manufacturing, ATMPs, and personalized medicines. Authorities are now more explicit about expecting risk-based approaches, which encourages us to adopt more sophisticated and systematic risk management strategies. Finally, QRM is shifting from being just a documentation exercise to a real-time, data-driven decision support system. This evolution empowers us to respond faster and more accurately, ultimately strengthening our overall quality management and patient safety. This trajectory aligns perfectly with the overall theme of continuously improving our quality systems through innovation and smart technology. Let's start by emphasizing that QRM, or quality risk management, is not just an optional activity, it's actually mandatory in practice. Under current modern ICH and GMP expectations, it's a critical part of our compliance framework. Now, ICH Q9 R1 has really sharpened our focus on several key areas. These include subjectivity, which means we need to minimize personal biases; formality, ensuring processes are clearly documented and structured; decision-making, making it more transparent and justified; and product availability, which is crucial for patient access and safety. For effective QRM, it's essential that our approach is science-based and driven by data. We want to make decisions that are objective and supported by evidence. Being patient-centric is also fundamental. Our ultimate goal is to ensure patient safety and product quality. Additionally, our risk management should be proportionate, meaning it's tailored to the level of risk involved, and it must be life-cycle-oriented, considering risks throughout the entire product lifecycle. Finally, integrating QRM strongly with our pharmaceutical quality system, or PQS, as well as with critical control strategies, data integrity, and continuous improvement initiatives, is vital. This integration helps us maintain compliance and supports the sustainability of our business over the long term. To wrap up, the key takeaway is that effective QRM is a comprehensive, integrated approach that underpins our quality culture. It's about making informed decisions, protecting patients, and ensuring our processes are resilient and sustainable in a constantly evolving regulatory landscape. For further support, please contact us. If you have any questions or need additional assistance, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help you succeed and ensure you have all the resources you need. Thank you for your attention and participation throughout this presentation.